Hello and welcome to the We Are Money podcast, brought to you by Beasley Mitchell & Company. I'm your lovely host, Brad Beasley, and with me as always is David.
Hey, Brad, how are you doing?
Just fine, sir. How are you?
I'm doing okay.
Are you excited for the current Easter Passover weekend?
Yes.
Actually, Passover is probably one.
Yes, just because it's a little time off would be nice. And
A little time off?
yeah, little time off. And plus, there's all those chocolate and peanut butter bunnies everywhere.
Why is the bunny? I mean, I know that was like a whole South Park episode.
Well, it's like a pagan thing. It goes back to the pagan emperor, some Roman emperor thing that they were trying to incorporate into Christianity with the pagan things. And I guess it was like the bunny was the like fertility Easter something.
Wow.
And
you know a lot more about this than I figured.
I still like the Jim Gaffigan's one, who was like, the day Jesus rose from the grave, how should we do it? How about eggs? Well, what do eggs have anything to do with it? Well, don't worry, a bunny delivers them.
Okay, yeah.
What?
Well, that makes complete sense. So, if you were talking about chocolate and chocolate bunnies, I mean, that's kind of, we're okay with, I guess, eating the chocolate bunny, but, what other chocolate animals would you maybe want to participate in? Like if there was chocolate, chocolate cockroaches would be really gross.
Yeah.
Chocolate spiders.
Well, I'm a fan of anything chocolate that is shaped like anything else.
Okay, so you're just more of like a chocolate bar.
Yeah,
like
just whatever.
It doesn't matter what the shape is. It's just going to go in my belly anyways.
Correct. Yes. It's
Okay.
just food.
That's always good. Well, once again, We Are Money podcast, and today's episode is going to be a little bit different. We've got Mikka Burrell from Beasley Legal here to talk to us today. Mikka, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
And how's everything going today?
Going well.
So, Mikka, give us a little background on yourself.
Well, like you said, I am an associate attorney at Beasley Legal, so we are just next door to Beasley Mitchell. I started here at the firm last September.
Nice.
And so far I've been really enjoying the work I do. We specialize in estate planning, probate, business, and the like. So.
And where'd you go to law school?
I went to Michigan State. Go Spartans.
Oh, Michigan State. Nice. They had a good little run in the NCAA basketball tournament.
Yes, ended in heartbreak. But you know what? That's okay because now, I live in El Paso, so we're going to claim Texas Tech losing in the final as a victory.
As a victory.
for UTEP. So.
Right. There's about halfway through that national championship where I was rooting for Texas Tech, and then I was like, why am I rooting for Texas Tech?
Do you really want to put up with that for the next year?
I really want to deal with Texas Tech in doing this. Now, for full disclosure, I almost went to Texas Tech, was actually accepted into their architecture program, and was going to go walk on there. And then the day of my recruiting visit, I was there, and the winds were 60 miles an hour blowing in, and you could barely see the outfield from home plate. And I said, there's no way I'm playing here.
And then also when she found out architectural school had nothing to do with Legos.
Right. Turns out you actually have to build buildings, and you can't there's not instructions that come with red brick number 4 over here. There's none of those.
Yeah.
So it gets a little bit different. So now, Mikka, you've kind of become through different things as everybody does in life, understanding and getting a knowledge on different areas. And so I know recently you've kind of got some more knowledge on oil and gas and some of the interesting things that are happening around with oil and gas. And so, you had mentioned a new, different way of accounting for things. And I mean, I'm not going to lie, I'm not a huge expert in oil and gas. But, what have you kind of seen through some of the work that you've done?
Sure. Well, full disclosure, I too am not an expert in oil and gas. And I think that a lot of people think that when you are a Texas attorney that you know something about it. Not quite true. The first time I ever was exposed to oil and gas law was for the bar exam.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just a 1-day prep. They say, here's what you need to know, nothing more, nothing less. Recently we've had a lot of clients come to us. Oftentimes there are clients that have probates going on.
Mm-hmm.
They're administering a probate or they're a beneficiary of some sort, who have oil and gas issues. And, being here in New Mexico and being on the border with Texas, that's always going to crop up because, especially in Southeast New Mexico and kind of the Permian Basin, there's a lot of that industry out there. So, I didn't We haven't had any really gnarly oil and gas litigation type things, but we've just had people coming to us asking, can you help me get this division order? Apparently, I inherited this mineral interest
Hmm.
from, my dad, my mom, whoever it may be, and on the surface, it seems like it's a pretty straightforward process.
Right.
Oftentimes, energy companies they just say, give me the letters testamentary or give me the copy of the probate or the death certificate, and we'll,
Hmm.
we'll get this going for you. Um, but of course, it just depends on number one, the division order analysts that you're dealing with. Some of them are, and I don't mean to disparage them, but some are more competent in terms of how probate works than
Right.
others, and so some don't understand that. At least in Texas, when you go through probate, that's enough to pass title.
Right.
Title's already passed. When you're getting to getting a division order, you're just saying, I already have this interest. Just make sure that that reflects accurately in your records.
The right
So,
title and those kind of things.
exactly.
The part on the oil and gas that always gets me is like, when you're talking about real estate law,
Mhm.
you get a meets and bounds. Here is my property.
Right.
This is for the people viewing at home on YouTube.
And that is how much property.
And this
Brad
is how
has.
much property I have. I literally have one piece of paper. So when you have a piece of, this, and so they say, okay, it is this line followed by this line, followed by this line to this rod to this stake, and it goes all the way around. And in oil and gas, it's not, I mean, you'd say, well, I got this piece of land and you're drilling on my,
Right.
I've let you put a well on my property and I'm drilling underneath, but it's not that simple.
No, and oftentimes the surface estate and the mineral estate are severed. Oftentimes an owner of a mineral estate might not have any interest on the actual property that you can see with the naked
Mhm.
eye. All of their interest is underground and
Right.
being pooled with other interests in the area. So yeah, that part of it can get confusing conceptually because as you said, you're used to seeing meets and bounds and visualizing what that property looks like. But when
Right.
your property is, several feet in the earth, that it's hard.
Well, and
Um,
especially with how they drill now, because used to the
mhm,
old days, it was they drilled straight down. And what somebody described to me was one of the great things was that they said with the way you used to drill was if you pictured the earth as a sponge,
mhm,
right? Is that you used to drill straight down from the top of the sponge into it, and you tried to hit one of the little holes in the
mhm.
sponge where there was air, which let's call it
Mhm.
oil, right? You try to drill it, boop, oh, I hit this thing, and here comes all the oil coming out. Well, now what they've done is it goes down and it just spreads out, frack it, and so it's like it squeezed
Right.
the sponge, so you don't have to hit the hole. It squeezes it really hard,
You just got to get close.
and then it boom, here comes all the oil. So you're right. If the three of us all have properties together, I might have the well on my property, but they might be drilling more on y'all side. So it
Right.
becomes like, well, whose is that?
Exactly. Yeah, and that can get very confusing, especially when you're looking at a run sheet or records like that, and everything is just in really small fractions. That can
Right.
get very confusing, especially for me because people always ask me, "Well, why are you a lawyer?" Because I don't like numbers and I don't like blood. So seeing all those numbers, I was like, "Okay, gonna have to wrap my head around this first before I can help the client." But
And then seeing David beat his head against the wall with some of the oil and gas stuff that's caused blood. So you don't
Yes.
want that either.
Yes,
exactly,
exactly.
exactly.
Um,
And one thing that you kind of mentioned briefly in the intro about oil and gas and accounting, and this is one thing that I learned in helping out these clients is there's a method of accounting that is peculiar to the oil and gas industry, and it's called joint interest billing,
Hmm.
or JIBS, as one division order analyst called it, which I think sounds much cooler.
Right.
But so basically, this is a form of accounting that, like I said, it's unique to the oil and gas industry, and basically. A joint interest billing statement divides the revenues and expenses from a particular project among all its partners. Um, and we had, one particular client who did have this kind of expense to pay for because what ends up happening is when you have an interest like this, you're actually in a partnership with the energy company that's drilling.
Okay.
And so, with that being said, you have to pay your share of the expenses for drilling, or in some cases, bringing that oil to market to be turned into crude and therefore turned into profit. And so, when one division order analyst told me, "Well, I'm not going to give you the division order until you pay these $3,000 in jibs." I'm like, "What is that? Why does he owe?"
Right.
I didn't realize that these were working interests and not just royalty interests, where you have no no liability for the drilling expense.
Well, I'm
So
glad that you pointed that out because that's one thing that's always confusing to me is to when you have the royalty interest versus the working interest. So you kind of have an idea of how those are different.
yeah, I mean, a very crude explanation of it
Hey,
is,
good
oh
fun.
yeah, there we go.
Nice.
That was not intentional, but it worked. Um, yeah, a very basic explanation of it is, when you have a royalty interest, you're not on the hook for the drilling expenses and the marketing expenses and that kind of thing. You're not in a partnership, if you will, with the energy company. You just have that right to the money,
Mhm.
which for many people that's preferable. When you have a working interest, of course, you're going to get those JIB statements and have to pay. And oftentimes those are accounted on a monthly basis.
Mhm.
And so, um, many times when you do have a profit on that kind of interest, it's just going to get applied to your billing balance,
Right.
which is the case that I had with a client. And so, um, when it comes to planning, of course, I'm not an oil and gas specialist, but we do planning here at Beasley Legal. That's something that you really want to keep in mind when you're planning, because your heirs or your beneficiaries might not know that your interests are working interests, and it actually costs them money.
Right.
So, luckily my client was very understanding of that and what was going on, and they still wanted the interest because it's still lucrative, even having that jib to account for. But
Right.
definitely something that people should keep in mind as they are planning for their estate. So
Yeah. I mean, that's once again going back to the stuff about planning with the estate, making sure that everybody knows or somebody at least knows what all you have so that it gets transferred properly. Now, in the case where where we look at it, if somebody has it in a trust, does that make it way easier to transfer than at that point because it's
y-
in a trust?
yeah, I think so. Just because if you know that trust is in existence and you can kind of direct all of your property there, it's easier for your heirs or your beneficiaries, because they don't have to go looking in all of your documents to see, okay, what did she own, or you
Hmm.
know where are her mineral interests. If you can just direct it there while you're still alive, it's much easier. Also, one thing that I think that is really important, not only to account for your own interests, but also to make sure that you know who you've leased with, because these energy companies, they change so quickly.
Right.
A lot of these oil and gas leases have terms in them where they're assignable. So an energy company might just say, "Well, I'm going to give it over to Star Energy over here," and
Right.
I ran into that too, where I would call an energy company and they'd say, "We don't have this interest anymore. It's been assigned," or "We merged with so and so," or "This
Wow.
company went out of business." And so, when trying to work backwards, and track all of these things can be difficult. So
So you're saying all my Enron working interest that I'm sitting on, you
You,
know,
you may want to go
those
check
might be
those out.
gone.
Yeah.
those might
Yeah.
probably haven't seen
Yeah.
those.
But along with the trust, I think one of the things is that if it's already titled in the trust, there is no need to change the ownership. All you're doing is when somebody passes away or something, there
Right.
is you change who the trustee or possibly who the beneficiaries are. So who is on their records and who is the record owner doesn't really change, and so it really facilitates getting that passed on to the next generation. So that's what we really work on, and in some cases, some states, I mean, Texas is pretty good. Um, New Mexico is decent. I've dealt with some in Oklahoma, and depending on what county it was just like trying to grasp at anything, trying to show ownership, and so it really gets tough. But if you can do it while you're living, it's much easier than your heirs trying to figure out after the fact where that came from.
Well, and that's true of all estate planning, right, Mika? I mean, it's easier to do it when you're alive than let your heirs kind of mess with it when you're dead.
Absolutely. And one thing that I think, well, first of all, I think a lot of people, they're hesitant to plan because they think about death,
Hmm.
and death rate's still 100%.
Father
So
time's undefeated.
yeah,
Yes.
exactly, exactly. And two, another thing that I've kind of encountered in just conversations with people is many people think that they don't have anything worth planning for, and that's just simply not true. Everyone has an estate. This is not something just for the wealthy.
Right.
And so it's very important to get that done, and to help out your family so that they know your wishes, and it takes the guesswork out of it for them, and can alleviate a lot of fighting or feelings of guilt, that kind of thing.
Right, because
So
if you had a small little working interest and everything else was pretty clean, then your entire estate could be eaten up by you just trying to transfer this working interest,
right.
fees and all this other stuff versus do some pre-planning, get in here, get some trust, get all that stuff taken care of. And that's where you would come in and help out, right?
Exactly. And one thing too that I had that I experienced with another client is when you don't know what your interests are because you're kind of working backwards and trying to figure out, okay, what did mom own when she was alive, and how does this all shake out? It can be very expensive to get a title opinion. We had to engage, professional landmen to help us out with a certain interest, and that ran about $3,000 because
Right.
they have to go back all the way to the patent to
Right.
when the state of Texas actually said, "Here you go, have this land," to
Yeah.
see where that went.
So you're talking like Santa Ana, and
Right.
like
Yes.
Davy Crockett time. That
Nice.
Yeah.
when
So
it
you
actually
had
became
to
a
go
state.
to the Alamo.
We had to go. Yes.
You had to go
Right.
into the
Had to
Alamo.
go to
had to go to the
Alamo.
files back there. I remember seeing the one where there was this, the classic law deal. I remember saw one of the emails on it where it was like this uh, New York attorney was trying to procure title for their client in Louisiana.
hmm
And they're like, we're really upset. We cannot, we think we have clear title, but was dealing with a Louisiana attorney and says, hey, but we don't have any title records prior to 1824. How do we know that we're okay? And they're like, so then they went through, he goes, well, in 1824, there's a Louisiana purchase. And so we went to, and so they did it all the way back to the Magna Carta.
Yep.
Was
Right.
The problem was traced it all back. Cause it's like, this is how far back you go,
Yeah.
and,
Yeah.
so that's what's really interesting about that stuff.
Yep.
Well, Mika, thank you so much for walking us through some oil and gas. Let's talk about something else fun that Mika does. Some people may not know this, but Mika for Fun is part of a group of fan supporters with the El Paso Locomotives, right?
Correct. Yes. Our supporters group is called Eighth Notch. Notch 8 is the highest setting for speed on a locomotive.
Oh, okay.
So-
Sorry. I was thinking that it was like how many notches on the bedpost. I was like, I think I will be on that one.
Well, maybe for some of us. But
So notch 8, is basically full speed on the locomotive.
exactly. And so
That's
that's
awesome.
that's kind of our mantra. We are full throttle, and we sit in section 105 at Southwest University Park, and our job basically is to keep the energy high for 90 minutes. For those of us who are uninitiated in soccer supporter culture, it's very different from any other sport. I
Right.
mean, we have flags,
Let's have smoke bombs.
smoke bombs. Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
I was. We were there, and our seats are in the I guess we might be like the second or third notch section. I like to be closer to the bathroom and the beer. But
Fair.
but and so I remember watching, and all of a sudden David and I were like, "There's smoke bombs! Oh my God, is Mika okay?"
Yeah.
And there's flags. It just looked like a great time.
It's so much fun. I mean, of course, it's more fun when we're winning. We are a brand new franchise in USL Championship. That's the name of the league. It's the second division of soccer in the United States. The first, of course, being MLS. So yeah, there's a lot of growing pains, but it is a long season, and our coach is very he's very set on establishing a philosophy. And of course, when you're trying to do that, it
Mhm.
takes a while for wins to get going because he wants to establish his style of play first.
Now, is
So-
is your coach probably the best looking coach in the region?
He's not bad.
I mean, he's a handsome man.
Yeah, and he's quite young too. He's in his 30s. So,
Right.
but even with that being said, he's got a lot of experience coaching in the United States and in England as well. He played for a bit. So,
Mhm.
I think we're in good hands. I think it's just up to the supporters to be patient.
Are
And
we gonna
then-
get to see the rivalry between the El Paso Locomotives and maybe FC Juarez? Is that game going to happen sometime? Because that would be like kablooey in the entire region.
Yeah, we did play a friendly against FC Juarez, and of course, people know that they're under the same ownership group. So,
Well,
they're-
they just sleep in the same bed.
right.
Right.
So we are sister clubs in that way. And Juarez is definitely an example that I think Locomotive would like to follow because for those who don't know, Juarez made it to the Copa MX final
Right.
against I think it was Club America, who
Right.
are a storied Mexican club. So for them to make it that far amazing.
And if they'd have won, they would have actually gone into
Yeah,
Liga MX.
promotion is
Mhm.
would have definitely been on the table for sure.
So then they're
And
playing against Atlas and Americas and Cruz
Necaxa
Azul and the Pumas and
Rayados, yeah,
all that
everyone.
stuff.
So
Mika, if you have the ear of the coach, if you guys are able to get it, and he's trying to establish this philosophy, I would suggest, with my experience that I have coaching, major soccer, being I think 9U, I think right now is
U10, David.
U10. Sorry,
We've been-
we're
we've
up
been
there,
up.
but I do have a coaching license of sorts.
right.
That the one thing I think he could really help out his philosophy is kind of what we do, which is oranges at halftime and snacky poos at the end of the game. And I think that would really
That's-
help the culture of these guys to do it.
Well, see, and that's what I think is so funny. Like, if I was doing the soccer, I'd be like, all right, our halftime orange sponsors are brought to you by Minute Maid, or something like that. Like, I mean, why not?
Well,
just...
we have Jarritos, so
There you go.
True.
they give them out at the end of the game, and the training kits are Jarritos. So.
That's when we left the last one. My son walked out, and they handed him the Jarritos, and it was a mango one. He goes, "Dad, is this spicy Mexican soda?" And I'm like, "I don't know. Try it." And he goes, "Ooh, it's really good."
Oh, good.
He was so excited. He was just so excited. It's super fun. Well, awesome, Mika. Well, like I said, I love talking soccer, and like I said, love the presentation on oil and gas. And so, thank you so much for joining us today, and we'll stick around for these rest of these segments. Once again, you're listening to the We Are Money podcast, brought to you by Beasley Mitchell & Company. And now we're heading off to my favorite segment, If Brad Ruled the World.
It's time for If Brad Ruled the World.
And now we're going to bring on our producer, Natalie, to guide us through If Brad Ruled the World.
Hello. All right, so this is If Brad Ruled the World. So, Brad, I will be asking you 5 questions regarding your choices if you were ruler of the world.
Okay, that's implying that I'm not, so that kind of ruins
Well, you
it.
already think you are.
Right.
Pretty much.
This
and
is
then-
just the stroking of the ego section.
Yes.
Okay, keep
Yeah.
going.
Yeah,
You may
a little bit
continue.
of both.
Yes.
You may
All
continue.
right, so question number 1. St. Matthew of Apostle fame is the patron saint of accountants, bookkeepers, and tax collectors. Before becoming an apostle, he was a tax collector. If you could name anyone as the new saint of accountants, who would it be and why?
Well, first of all, my middle name is Matthew, so I am named after the patron saint of accounting. So, funny how that all worked out.
Also something that gets walked on.
Yes.
A mat.
This is just a
Wow.
really striking Brad ego whole segment.
It's a good thing I got a lot to spare. So, yeah, if I had a new patron saint of accounting, you said?
Yes.
Okay. If I had a new patron saint of accounting, well, I mean, Saint Frito.
Saint Frito.
Saint Frito
Saint Frito of chili pie.
of chili pie. Yes, that would be probably the new patron saint.
Love it.
Yes, absolutely.
Love it. I'm not surprised. All right. Number 2. There are more words in the tax code than there are in the Bible. The tax code is approximately 4 million words long. If you had to choose one book to be read by everyone in your world, what would it be and why?
That's an amazing factoid, Dave. Did you know that factoid?
I think I remember hearing that, but that there's more. Takes more words to explain the code than the Book of Life.
The Book of Life and entire, Catholicism, Catholic, Christianity
Yeah.
deal. Okay.
There's no Gutenberg tax code either.
John Gutenberg.
Not John Gutenberg.
Okay. Okay. So the one book that I would probably have everybody read, I'll tell you what, I've become a big Timothy Ferriss fan lately. I've read a lot of his books, 4 Hour Work Week, Tools of Titans, Tribe of Mentors, all these books that he has, and they're just fantastic. I really think that if people actually read 4 Hour Work Week, it would change a lot of the thought process of how everybody kind of viewed how we're supposed to function in society. And it's not about only working 4 hours. That's the funny part about the book, is that it's not about just how to work 4 hours.
So it's false advertising.
It is false advertising, but it's about how to work smarter and having and setting goals and trying to understand what is good debt, what is bad debt, and all those kind of things. So it's really interesting. David, do you have a favorite book that you would have everybody read? Cat in the Hat.
Cat in the Hat. I mean, honestly, Cat in the Hat is a pretty good book because I think that was written on a dare or a challenge to be able to write a kid's book, a full story, without using big words, and so you actually have a good story with small words. So that is a good one. I kind of like the Freakonomics.
right?
I
That's a
think
good one.
Freakonomics is a good one that kind of shows you some different things to think
on my
about.
list. Still
That-
haven't gotten around to it.
Mika, you got anything?
Favorite book. I'd have to say that it's a book called Fever Pitch by Nick Hornby.
Oh, okay.
Some people might be familiar with the baseball movie Fever Pitch that was adapted from that book, but that book is actually a book about soccer, of course, about the author's relationship with Arsenal Football Club growing up, and it's not just a soccer book; it's a memoir, and it's funny, it's sad, it's got everything in there, even for people who are not fans. It's a good read. Nick Hornby also wrote High Fidelity, which is that movie with John Cusack, if I'm remembering correctly. So probably be mine.
So nobody went with Fox and Socks. Fox
No.
and Socks and Box on Locks.
No,
Knocks on Box on Socks on Fox.
not really.
I was
No.
gonna go with the places you'll go. Is that the Dr. Seuss?
Yeah.
Yep.
mhm.
That's a
Mhm.
great
Always
one.
a good one.
Yes. The classic, graduation gift from everybody. Right. That's always a good one. Cool. All right.
All right, awesome. So question number 3. Too many people have begun to travel, and the people of the world are asking you to create a new form of travel besides planes, trains, and automobiles. What new form of travel are you creating?
Oh, I would definitely go with teleportation. Is that or is that the one that you read your minds? Is teleportation is where you transfer, right?
Yes. Yeah, you're right. Teleportation.
Okay.
I think
wanna make-
telekinesis is the other one.
telekinesis. Okay. I wouldn't do that one.
That's
Yeah.
where you move objects, right?
With your mind, I'm
Okay.
pretty sure,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
You guys are so smart.
Just
I would go
making
with
sure.
teleport because I think that's just a lot easier. It's like I would rather not be here. I'd rather be there. And so then, boom, we could just get teleported wherever we needed to go. And so that makes it a lot easier. You don't have to necessarily worry about maybe security as much or whatever it is because you're kind of getting sent to where you are. Now, the downside is there. I would assume there'd have to be some type of teleportation blocker mechanism so I can't just like teleport into Fort Knox and grab some gold and get teleported back out.
Yep.
Knox and Socks and Fox and Box.
Yes.
But no, I
or
think
into like a Swiss bank
a
of
Swiss
your choice.
bank. Yes. So I mean, there's a little bit of regulations, obviously, that would need to get written around this. But I like teleportation. What about you?
I'd like the idea of teleportation, but I look at the way that my fast food's handled and I look at the way that my luggage is handled, and I would be scared of like my head going one way and my legs going another way, and all of a sudden,
Like Spaceballs.
Yeah, like, yes,
Spaceballs.
yes, or your head's on backwards or something there when it comes out.
Why didn't somebody tell me my butt was this big?
Yes,
Right.
yes.
Mika, what about you?
I mean, anytime someone has asked me what superpower would you have, I always said teleportation. So I have to agree with you there. I think it'd be lovely to just say, okay, well, I get out of work at 5:30, going to Paris tonight.
I'll be there at
Yeah, but
5:31.
that would be great.
As you mentioned that, and as I was thinking through this whole process, is then it kind of becomes then it seems like all these fun places would then just be excessively crowded because I don't think anybody's being like, where I'm going to go? Demon, New Mexico. I'm going to go there tonight.
Well, except for the duck races and tortilla toss.
Right. Yeah. David is the tortilla tossing champion. So
Yes.
3-time
That's right.
defending champion.
Yes.
So, all right.
All right, question number 4. NASA has donated $1 billion for you to begin research in space. What are you choosing to research?
The effects of no gravity on chili cheese fries.
Oh, that's true. That's true.
Sorry, chili cheese fritters.
$1
The
billion.
taste. $1 billion. Well, I mean, we'd spend a little bit of money on that. But I still am fascinated by the thought of life on other planets. And, they've seen microbes in some of these things and on the moon, and they've seen stuff on Mars that you go, well, there's got to be something else that's out there somewhere. But just the idea of what does that look like? And, of course, we immediately go to, us. It's going to look like it. Well, no, not necessarily. It could look completely different. But just the idea of like, is there really something else out there? And, right now we measure everything in the speed of light. And so that we can't, all the math and stuff says it's impossible to go faster than the speed of light. Well, rewind 200 years, or 100 and even 150 years, we thought it was impossible to go faster than the speed of sound. We thought that you'd implode once you hit the
Mhm.
speed of sound. And so it's like, is that the end? Is really the speed of light the end, or is there
Like a speed of gamma rays or
is
something.
there something faster that you go? And so I mean, that's what I would really take, because I think that it'd be fun to Star Trek and explore and just figure out what the heck else is out there, because it's a crazy world. I watched the Science Channel at night. I'm really nerdy with that. So
Well, I saw a great meme that was wondering if maybe there's all these other aliens out there, But whenever they drive past Earth, they just roll up their window and try to get out of that neighborhood.
Click lock. Click lock. Just keep moving.
Maybe they'll come down and gentrify Earth.
Yeah, there you go.
Bless us with their presence.
Yes.
All right, so the final question on the topic of space. So, aliens from Mars have spoken, and they are challenging the people of your world to one game of any kind where winner takes all. What game are you playing?
One game, winner take all.
Madden 93.
Madden 93. In NHL hockey 96,
Yes.
or what is it with Gretzky?
The one where swingers were there
Yes,
playing on there.
Gretzky and Jeremy Roenick. I mean, I would think that, gosh, it'd be hard because we have no idea what their athletic skill set is or whatever it happens to be. I mean, I'd like to say football, but if they're bigger and faster, we're going to be in a lot of trouble, with football. Maybe something like chess.
See, my thought is if they came here, they're probably smarter than us,
Okay, so chess is out.
and they're probably more athletic or at least superior built on there. So we need
So we're
something.
talking baseball.
Yeah, or like beer pong.
Beer pong.
Beer pong.
Something where the
Flip
skill
cup.
is very, very low. Come on, think about this. We don't want to,
We don't want to shoot too high.
yes, we need something that's very
Beer pong.
there. Yes.
I like that one. Beer pong.
Beer pong, I like it. Or maybe an eating contest? 'Cause-
Well, they may have like 4 stomachs.
Oh,
True.
So, and yeah,
Mhm.
I'm thinking something with very, very low skill, like
Yes.
curling.
Yeah. So you're willing.
Human curling.
Yes,
Human
curling.
beer pong.
Yes, and I am willing to risk the
Tortilla
entire.
tossing.
I am willing to risk the entire human race on a beer pong.
On beer pong. You're gonna have some guy with a mullet that is gonna
Yes.
represent the world.
Joe Dirt saves the earth. That's a movie. I got your copyrights right here.
Well, I think we're done stroking my ego with it. Brad ruled the world, so now we'll move on to David's favorite segment, David's Legal Corner.
The information contained on David's Legal Corner is provided as a general public service. The listeners, if any, are advised to check for changes to current law and to consult with an attorney. David's Legal Corner does not accept, review or consider any unsolicited ideas, works, materials, suggestions, artwork, content, proposals, denials, reproposals, redenials, third attempts or third rejections of such third attempts of such proposals or denials, or the like, including but not limited to, for advertising campaigns, promotions, products, services, technologies, product enhancements, facial enhancements, personal enhancements, CGI enhancements, processes, marketing strategies, product names, content, creative materials, not so creative materials, building materials, really bad materials, fabric materials, or material girls living in a material world. However, if your idea is really, really good, David's Legal Corner will give you a shout out and mad props, as life, in general, is probably better having such idea in existence.
I don't know where you come up with these, but I love them.
So this one, I ran across this looking at some new Apple products, and you never read all the things that are really in that pamphlet that you get when you get a new iPad, when you get a new product of any kind. And one thing I came across was that Apple has an unsolicited idea submission policy.
Okay.
So in this policy, it mainly tells you don't send us any ideas for new things. We don't really review them. We don't look them out. So we're not going to. So if you came up and said, I wanted to have an hot dog that lets you, get hot dogs whenever you want, or something else, a new thing there.
That's a great idea.
So here's what you agree to if you do send them an idea. You agree that 1, your submission and the contents along with the related intellectual property will automatically become the property of Apple without any compensation to you. 2, Apple may use or redistribute the submission and their contents for any purpose in any way on an unrestricted basis. 3, there's no obligation for Apple to review the submission. And 4, there's no obligation to keep anything confidential. So
Don't send anything. to
don't
Apple.
send anything to Apple.
or don't be like that guy that'd be like, I told him to do the
I
Face
d-
ID. That was my
Yeah.
idea.
Like when I saw the iPod, I could have kicked myself.
That's crazy.
So,
So it's a heads they win, tails we lose.
yes. Yeah. So that's there. I don't know if anybody's actually, I'm sure people have challenged things on that, but that's their idea. And I just found it a very interesting policy for them to have that and be
So
out there.
is it an affirmative? Is it an affirmative agreement, or is it one of those by using this product you agree to X?
It's by submitting an idea to them there, then you are doing that. So they said we can welcome feedback, but if you said in the feedback that, hey, I'm using your iPad, this is great, why don't you have an extension so I can carry it around my neck? And all of a sudden now we have the new iNeck
Mm-hmm.
thing that comes on there. They don't have to compensate you for that. So don't give them any suggestions.
And is that policy easily accessible? Because I mean, my first thought is that enough notice? I mean, do you just pull that up from their website or?
Yeah, this was just right on their website. I was kind of just scrolling around and came across this.
Okay.
But it's one of those that, most of us, when they get all those things at the end that says that you have to agree to get to the next thing. Like last night I was installing a new video game since it's after tax season. I have a chance to go play a video game and it's just accept. Sometimes you wonder what you're accepting, and that is one of them.
Yeah, see, I always wonder on any of those because, I mean, I just do the same thing. I just blow through and just say, yeah, I agree to terms of service. And, once again, another South Park episode where they talked about agreeing to the terms of service, and it was really bad. But, it's I guess this is the world we have to live in, right? I guess this is because you guys are the attorneys. I'm outnumbered in the studio today, 2 to 1. But I guess this is the attorneys protecting Apple, but then also protecting people from suing Apple from saying, I gave you that idea and those kind of things, right?
Yeah, they're trying to make a claim that even if you did give us that idea, by giving it to us, you already agreed to make it our idea.
And I'm sure even if you wanted to challenge it, you're going to arbitration first. I mean, that's an industry standard at this point.
Right.
So.
Yeah, and it's kind of tough to take on Apple. They have a little bit more money than the average person. Just a little bit.
A little.
I think their market cap was like 900 billion or something.
Did you see there was a deal that a troll deal that Bill Gates did on somebody as they posted a tweet. You can probably find it and pull it up, where this guy said, "Okay, using the money that's using the money that's in your bank account, what Apple product could you buy?" Right? That's what the guy said. And it went out, and one of the person that responded was Bill Gates, and it just said Apple.
And that is 100%
Nice.
true.
I was
Nice.
like, that's great.
Yes.
That's great. And this guy was going for, I could buy an iPad or 7 iWatches or whatever it is. And he's just like, Apple.
I can buy a 99-cent app.
Imagine that hostile takeover. That would change the world.
Yeah. I thought that was pretty funny. I was like, that's really good.
Cool.
So cool. Well, that's awesome. I've never read that stuff, David, but that's always really interesting. So thanks for David's Legal Corner, brought to you by Beasley Legal. Once again, you're listening to the We Are Money podcast, brought to you by Beasley Mitchell & Company. And now we're heading to segment 5, the best code ever.
Fibonacci, binary, the Internal Revenue Code. What will it allow? The best code ever now. The best code ever now.
All right, so now we're to the best code and send it back over to our producer, Natalie.
All right. So for the best code ever, what I'm going to be doing is I will be providing you all 3 sets of 4 laws. 3 of these laws are true and 1 of them is fake. So the aim of the game is to try and guess which law is the fake law.
Got it.
All right. So set number 1, the first law. The use of confetti is strictly prohibited in Mobile, Alabama. Number 2, in Arizona, it is illegal to feed cows waste without a permit unless you are raising the cows for your own consumption. Number 3, in Arkansas, it is illegal for a pinball machine to give away more than 25 free games to a player who keeps winning. And finally, number 4, in California, it is illegal to eat a frog that dies during a frog jumping contest.
Wow. Okay. I usually can get one of these that just kind of sticks out, but I'm trying to figure out which one is which. I can see the Arizona one being true, probably.
Mm-hmm.
Arkansas pinball. And California is just crazy enough to have a silly law like that. I think I'm going to go with the confetti being illegal in Mobile, Alabama. David?
I'm going to go with the pinball one. I think you can have it give more.
Okay.
I think the confetti one is reasonable because it's like a pollution type thing. I think I'm going to go with the pinball one.
All right, so none of you got it. The false law is that in Arizona, it's illegal to feed cows waste without a permit. So it's actually illegal to feed pigs waste without a permit. You can feed your cows.
Feed your cows whatever you want.
Yeah, but not your pigs.
They
So
gotta
if it says Arizona fed beef, you don't want it.
yes,
Yeah.
you don't know what has been fed that beef,
Okay, good to know.
And with
Gross.
but the
those-
bacon's okay.
Yeah, the bacon's fine. Okay, well, Arizona bacon. There you go.
Yeah, why not? So with the pinball machine, it's interesting. It's an attempt to prohibit machines that encourage gambling. So that's why it's illegal to.
I don't know. If you've ever seen our father play pinball, it is not gambling. That is
That is skill.
skill. It is scary skill.
Is it really?
Yes,
Is he really
he
good at
he is like the pinball wizard guy.
So this is how bad it
Really?
was. Is that we had we still have, my parents still have the Harlem Globetrotter pinball game, and it stopped at 1,000,000 points. So like the screen resets, like it only goes to 999,999, right?
Mhm.
And so he reset it so many times that we actually have it written in pencil like 2,000,000 and 2,038,000 points.
Mhm.
And this
Yeah.
is one game.
Yeah.
One game.
Over Christmas, we went to like a Castles and Coasters place at in Phoenix, and we went through like 3 cards of video game tokens. He went through like 3 playing, and he played these pinball things for like 30 minutes.
That's awesome.
Well, keep him away from Arkansas.
yes, we will.
All right. So the second set of laws, number 1. In Colorado, it is illegal to modify the weather without a permit. So, for example, some ski resorts burn silver iodine on the slopes, which simulates precipitation, creating a fresh sheet of powder for skiers and snowboarders. So that would be illegal.
Okay.
Number
Okay.
2, in Connecticut, it's illegal to sell any term papers or essays in an education facility supervised by the state.
Okay.
Number 3, in Delaware, it is illegal to sell, barter, or offer the fur of a lamb. And finally, number 4, in Hawaii, it is illegal to have a billboard.
Wow. Okay. I'm going to go Connecticut selling term papers.
I think I was going to go Connecticut, but more for the selling essays, because I mean
Well, here you sell essays.
essays.
Okay. All right. Mika?
I don't know. How else do people get through Yale?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, obviously, because their parents paid for them to
Yeah,
get in.
their
right?
parents get them on the rowing team.
They're on the
That's
rowing
true.
team, yes.
I think I'm gonna go for Delaware, the fur of a lamb. That seems odd.
Okay, you are correct.
All right.
All right.
That's fake, but it is illegal to sell, barter, or offer the fur of a domesticated cat or dog, which seems reasonable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there,
Okay. So, I mean, I don't want a dog skin cap. I mean,
It has to be a domesticated cat or dog. I don't know if I made
So if it was stray, that'd be just fine.
Stray is
I
okay,
guess
but if
so.
someone,
Stray's-
somebody
Oh
takes
my
it,
god.
there's nothing better than a Cocker Spaniel hat. Cocker
Yeah.
Spaniel fur hat. Wild.
Scarf.
wild
Cocker
Cocker
Spaniel.
yeah, it has to be wild.
Oh my god.
Oh, goodness. All right.
My wild Chihuahua shirt.
All right. So for our last set of laws, number 1. In Idaho, cannibalism is strictly prohibited except under life-threatening conditions where it is the only apparent means of survival. Number 2, in Illinois, it is illegal to possess more than $600 worth of salamanders. Number 3, in Indiana, it is illegal for liquor stores to sell soda, water, or anything other than alcoholic beverages. And finally, number 4, in Louisiana, the popular dish gumbo is not subject to sanitary codes.
Okay, I can believe that in Louisiana. I can believe the liquor sales in Indiana not having soda and water. I've been to Indiana. They're about liquor store. I'm gonna go with the Illinois $600 salamanders.
I'm hoping that I think it's just Idaho. I think that one because I think cannibalism is just. I don't think there's that caveat on there.
I think I'm gonna agree because I'm trying to picture what code that would be in. The criminal code, cannibalism. I don't know. I
You
think
guys are
that's-
so smart.
Food,
as
the food and
attorneys.
drug.
yeah, food and drug.
I was so scared writing these because I'm like, Mika and David are going to be on it, man. Like,
Well, we
the
are
two
doctors
attorneys.
of laws. Doctors of laws.
Doctors of laws, juris doctors.
Yes,
I thought it was just doctors.
just doctors. It's kind of
Okay.
Just doctors.
So which one is it?
All right, so this one was kind of a trick one. So the fake law is that in Louisiana, the popular dish gumbo is not subject to any laws or to any sanitary codes, but it's actually jambalaya.
Oh.
But when it says that, they said that it means that it's not subject to you can use iron pots and wood fires. So I guess in any other circumstance you
Right.
normally can't. So that's the exception.
Oh,
So
I
I
see.
think it's not as disgusting as it sounds.
Oh.
Because they're probably they figure they're probably using very old like kitchenware to
I
make these
assume
things in
so.
some of the older restaurants and things like that. Okay.
So if
So,
it's a
yeah.
traditional style.
So what that means is that in Idaho, you can eat somebody if you're really, really, really hungry.
Yeah.
If it's a necessity.
I'm kind of hungry right now.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's why I remain chubby, is because there'd be a lot of fat. You wouldn't want that. It'd be kind of tough to chew me.
Well, that's why I ate a lot of chili too, because I don't want me to be me. They'd be like, "Oh, he's too spicy."
Spicy. It's spicy.
It's got a lot of flavor in them.
But all his chili cheese Fritos make him
See,
crunchy.
that just makes me think that they had some kind of case where they had to consider that, and the legislature had to make a law like that. That's bizarre.
There's
Yeah.
probably some group that was eating people.
Yeah, and they were like, it was out of necessity.
Wow.
Gosh.
Wow.
I'm just thinking Donner
Gosh.
Party, but not
Right.
Donner Party and all that stuff.
Oh,
Well,
gosh.
awesome. Well, always a fun show. Mika, thank you so much for joining us today. It's always a great time to have you, and good luck with the El Paso locomotives, and
Thank you so much for having me. Appreciate it.
good luck trying
Fun.
to understand oil and gas law stuff. So once again, we are the We Are Money podcast, brought to you by Beasley Mitchell and Company, and thanks to Beasley Legal, our legal sponsor for David's Legal Corner. So until then, talk to you soon.